Welcome to this JavaScript tutorial on getting user input. This is one in a series of introductory tutorials that I'm doing for learning JavaScript from the beginning. At this point, you should be pretty comfortable with declaring and initializing variables, but this is allowing you to interact with a user in a console with this readline sync library. And I've got some information over here in the README. It tells you a little bit about that library and what the syntax is, kind of, how it's happening. I'm gonna talk about it as we do it, but this is here for you to read if you would like to refer to it. The other thing is that if you are coding along with me, your starter code may already have the code here for examples 1 and 2, but I wanted to actually live code it so I can talk about it. So you can feel free to just kind of like listen along. If you want to blank it out and type along with me, that's fine too. But when we get down here, there's going to be a section where you will definitely have blanks for you to fill in and code on your own. And I'm going to give you a chance to kind of try to figure that out by yourself before just coding along with me. So let's get started here at the top. The first thing to understand about readline sync is this is a library that exists outside of your program, but it's built into JavaScript. So all you have to do is have a little bit of syntax here to bring it into your program, and then you'll be able to make use of it. So the way we do that is to declare a constant. We're going to call it input. You can call it anything you want, but for consistency's sake, I always use input with all of my tutorials. And it's essentially just going to be an object that represents this library to make so that you can make use of all the different functionality of the library. We're really only interested in one thing, and that's going to be asking questions. But this is the way this is done. So const input, and then we're going to assign this the value of requiring readline sync. And so this expression right here basically says, go get the readline sync library and store an object that represents it in this variable input. And so now we're going to be able to ask questions using this because this library comes with some built-in functions called methods that we can call as part of this object. Okay, now we only have to do this once. We're going to be able to use input multiple times, but we only need to declare it up here at the top. Usually it's at the very, very top of your program, but since I've got some extra comments here, that's why it's actually on line 14. Okay, so let's look at example number 1. This example says you're coding you're coding a simple text adventure game. So 1983, here we come. And you want to be able to use the player's name throughout your game to personalize it. So we need to ask them what their name is so that every time we want to refer to them by name, we can. So the first thing we want to do is declare a variable to hold that name. So I'm going to say username. And then we're going to use the input library. So input.question. So question is a method of input. So we're calling question on the input object. I want you to get used to this kind of terminology when you hear me talk about it. And then you just put your question in here. It's just a string. What is your name? That's all we're going to ask. And that's it. So this looks a little bit like console log, right? That's the other time that you have used an object with a method before so far. And essentially, it uses console log because it prints something to the console, but it also brings a value back. Once the user gives us a value, it's going to return it, and we're going to store it right here in this variable, which is why we needed to declare a variable before we set the value so that we have something ready to receive whatever comes back from the user. Okay, so this will both ask the question and also store the answer at the same time. Once we have it, we can do something with it. Before I even do that, let's just go ahead and run it and just see how this works. So when you're using this as part of your development process in your program, you get to play both roles. You're the programmer and you're also the user. So I'm going to run it, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to be the user, and I'm going to put in my name, and I'm going to hit enter, and that's it. we don't have anything else written, right? That's as much as we've done so far. But you'll notice that there's a space here between the question mark and my name. And the reason that's there is because I included that as part of the string. That's important because otherwise my name would have been right up against the question mark. So keep that kind of thing in mind for, making this nice and readable by, taking care of things like that by adding extra space, or you can push something to the next line if you want. We'll do it different ways as we kind of go through here. Okay, so the next thing to do is to greet them and kind of, move on from there. So console log. So now I'm just printing something. I've got the name I want and I'm going to use it. So I'm going to say hi, comma, space, and then I'm going to concatenate that string with username so that I can refer to it. And I'm going to concatenate again to put the rest of my sentence. So comma, it's really nice to meet you. Let's go on an adventure together. Okay. So that, maybe that's how you start out your game. You ask them for their name, you give them a greeting, and you show them, that you got their name stored. So let's run it. I'm going to do this again. I'll put in Carrie. Hi, Carrie. It's really nice to meet you. Let's go on an adventure together. So now we see how we collected the name, and I can do it with anything I want, right? I can put Bob in here, and it's going to say, hi, Bob. That's the beauty of collecting user input and storing it in a variable, is then you can use that wherever you want, as many times as you want, and it customizes your program. Okay, so that's a good kind of basic example, right? Let's do something that's a little more complex. We're going to collect several pieces of information this time. So in this particular example, the idea is that we are collecting information from someone for our records, and so we want to ask them for their name, their first and last name, their phone, their email, and we want to greet them first, and then ask them for their name, and then print some sort of response that uses some of that information to kind of verify, okay, we've got your information. So let's start out with just the greeting, and that's just a simple console.log. And let's just say, welcome to the best user portal in the history of mankind. Typo. History of mankind. Okay. Please give us your name and contact information. Okay. Now, this time around, maybe instead of just having a space after that, I actually don't, I want to push a couple of lines. So I'm going to actually, first I want some lines that are ahead of this, since I also have some other stuff going on up here. And then I'm going to put one more line after this, and I don't really need the space for that. So let's just do that. And we'll see how this works. So I run it. We still have our original. Yeah. So now we see our new console log statement here comes out a couple of blank lines in between, because I put in those escape characters /n. Actually, that's \n. And that helps me kind of, again, keep things nice and clean and readable in the console. So this is a good practice. Okay, so that's the first thing, was just to kind of greet them and say what we're going to ask for. So we're going to do this one at a time. We're going to want, 4 variables for each one. First name, last name, phone, and email. So let's do the first one. And again, remember, we need to actually create variables first to store these responses in. So let first name equal, and then input.question, and I'll just ask them first name. It doesn't actually have to be a question, by the way. It can just be a prompt. And so maybe I'll do it like this, where I just say first name, :space, and then the prompt will be right there after the space. And then I can do that again. Let last name equals input.question, and then last name. And then phone. Let phone equal input.question, phone number, and then email. Email address. Okay, So I've kind of got some nice prompts there, nice and clean, one on each line, because every time you do this, it's going to automatically put it on a new line. So let's run it and see how this goes. What is my name? This is still the first one, right? That's okay. Okay, so now we're at the second one. Welcome to the Best User Portal. First name, I can put in Carrie. Last name, Jones. Phone number, 314-555-5555, because internet. And then email address, carrie@jones.com. Obviously not my real email address, but that's okay. There we go. And now all that information is collected, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So, and if you were running this, in a real system, you'd be saving this somewhere, right? But we're just practicing, so this is okay. So really the only thing I'm going to use it for is just to print it back to them to, print this kind of fake response. So let's do some console log statements. Console.log, and I'll say, thank you, first name, and then a question, exclamation point. We have saved your information. And then maybe here I'm going to actually, go to a next line and say, name is first name, and I'll concatenate it with a space in between and then the last name. And then I can do the same thing with the email or the phone. I keep thinking email's next, but it's actually phone. And then again with the email. Okay. So let's run this and see how this looks. You know what? I'm going to stop this. I'm going to comment these out so that we don't have to keep running through this part, because right now we're mostly interested in this part. Okay, still have my extra lines there, but that's all right. Okay, so first name is Carrie Jones. And Jones. Okay. All right, so it's working. You can see the information is displaying, but it's hard to read. Everything's kind of jammed up. So there again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put in some of these escape characters to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to put one here to push an extra space, like a blank line between here and here. And then ahead of each of these, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm also going to use \T, which is the tab character. And so that's going to tab everything over and kind of make it look more like all of this is one unit. So let's run this again. There you go. So now we can kind of see that we've got everything, spaced out here, and this is all tabbed over, and it's, you can do this however you'd like to format it and make it, easily readable, but that gives you another good example of how to use, some of these basic tools, the console log, the escape characters to concatenation to put together the text along with the values that are in your variables, however you want. So you're going to get a chance to do this on your own now. And I do think that it'll be good to comment all of this out so that when you're testing your own code as you work through this part, you don't have to go through all of this each time because it's otherwise it's going to keep asking you for all that information. So this time, what you're going to do is you're going to create a conversation between the program and the user. And it says you are in charge of next week's company potluck picnic in Forest Park, and you want to make sure you know what everyone's planning on bringing. You need to have the following. You need an introductory statement. You need 3 inputs asking for their name, which category of item they're bringing, which is meat, side, beverage, or other, and the specific item they are bringing. And then construct some sort of final sentence in which you use their name and that specific item to confirm that you've got their information. So you can structure this very similarly to how this was done. It's just new information, and you might want to format it a little differently. The bonus would be, if you want to list those 4 potluck categories on different lines, you can do that. But here's some kind of, some comments here to kind of help you do this in sequence, right? And that's it. So I'm going to suggest that you pause the video and work this out for yourself. And then you can unpause it and come back and kind of see how I do this. Okay, so let's take a look at how this is done. And of course, you may have done this differently, and that's totally okay, because you should be putting your own ideas and personality into this, but I'm going to kind of show you what I've worked out for this. Okay, so first thing is to greet them, right? Console.log. And I'm going to put in a \n there to move this down. We are so excited. You are coming to the company picnic next week. Please sign up and tell us what you're bringing. Okay, so that's our introductory statement, just to greet them. So first we're going to ask them for their name. So we're going to establish a variable to store that and say, let employee name equal input.question, and then we'll ask them for that. I'm going to do a little formatting. Oh, goodness. Okay. I got to type it correctly. I put a couple of line breaks in there. Okay, what is your name? And then another a line break, so that their response actually gets prompted on the next line. I want to do it that way this time. And I can test this out, see how we're doing so far. Yeah, we're doing okay. And I actually don't think I need 2 of these. So let's just do one of those. Okay. All right. Yeah, I like that better. It doesn't need to be 2 lines down. Okay, so let's move on. So the next thing is to ask for the category of item. Again, with input.question. And I will push it, add some line breaks in here. Which of the following are you bringing? And you remember I said for bonus, you could do some, extra stuff here. I'm going to push everything down a line and also tab it over like I did before. So I'm going to say meat, and then side, beverage, other. And then end it like that with an extra line break. So let's see how that looks. Okay, good. So it asked the question, it tabbed these in, listed them one on each line, and then the prompt is down here below, and I could say, beverage. Sure, okay. And then we want to ask them for a specific item. So one more variable. Let item equal input.question. What specific item will you be bringing? That one's pretty simple, right? All right, berry, beverage, and let's say, Dr. Pepper 0. It's one of my favorites. Cool, okay. So we've got all 3 variables. We're collecting information properly. We just need to produce some sort of response that just confirms that we got their information. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do it in a friendly way. Console log. Okay, and then I will use their name. Employee name. Oops. Quote, that's what I wanted. Thanks for signing up to bring, and then I will concatenate in the name of the item. We are looking forward to seeing you. All right. Oops. Okay, keep in mind these escape characters have to be inside the string. They're actually a character just like any other character that are part of a string. So if you put them outside the quotes, you will get a syntax error. Okay, let's run it. Carry beverage, Dr. Pepper 0. Okay, Carrie, thanks for signing up to bring Dr. Pepper 0. We are looking forward to seeing you. Great. Okay, so this works out. So hopefully this has helped you get a better sense of, how this works and get comfortable with using this input.question syntax. It's really useful and you're going to need it for a number of your assignments and exercises, and especially for graded assignments 1 and 2. So there you go. And keep checking in on my student resources for additional tutorials, and you can get lots of extra practice.